hefty price tag. Fines totaling $125,000. But the brawl may ultimately cost the Heat a little more. Grant Long, the only starter, suspended. The Hawks lose Doug Edwards, a reserve, and Keith Askins, another reserve. Kevin Lockery, before the fines were announced, had said if Long isn't playing Tuesday, then Danny Manning could not possibly be playing. Well, Danny will and Grant won't. Askins was suspended for 3 games, fined $15,000. Edwards gets 2 games, $10,000 for punching and retaliating, and Long 1 game, $10,000 for initiating the incident. Each team fined $30,000. The league office didn't stop with the Heat Hawks series. They went out and bagged the worm, suspending him for Game 3 of the Spurs Jazz series. Fined him $10,000 on Sunday. He gave Stockton the hip. The entire Jazz bench some lip. And Saturday, he commits a flagrant foul when he takes a swipe at the mailman's head, not to mention the undercut on Chambers. Lucas defends the worm and said Stockton and Malone got away with murder. Rodman, who just rejected a shot, has been ejected 6 times this season, suspended 3 times, given 35 Ts, and fined $22,500. Now, assuming it costs $100 to get your hair colored, Steve, that's 225 different shades the worm is missing out on. Well, there was a time when the running joke was, I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out, and as Steve pointed out earlier, times have changed, and the joke, not a very funny one, is now on the NBA. Bob Lee puts hoop and hockey in their respective corners, and you may be surprised at which comes out fighting.
If there is a sport dogged by a violent image, it is hockey.
Now he's challenged from behind. That's Patterson, who has picked Nystrom as a target.
But this is ancient hockey history. There are stringent new rules in the NHL. This past weekend, this was the one fight in 6 Stanley Cup games, while the NBA dealt with several incidents. In 1/3 as many playoff games, the NBA has a comparable number of incidents, judging flagrant fouls against fighting major penalties. Hockey has not cleared the benches. The playoffs are a different season with a unique psychology and strategy born of the high stakes and a familiarity which can turn to contempt.
You're playing the same team every night, so all of a sudden you're very much aware of what their plays are, what they're trying to accomplish. You know their plays as well as you know your own, hopefully, and so now it becomes more physical because of that knowledge.
The playoffs, when defenses turn rugged, the game can turn half-court and picks become granite. The bad boys, the Pistons, brandished an attitude and behavior en route to consecutive championships. The history of the postseason is replete with moments of violence, but few to rival the brawl between Atlanta and Miami Saturday night.
Basketball, this is not something to get excited about. The league's got to take a long look at this because the game is getting too rough. I'm telling you, Bob, too rough.
The intensity, this level is so high. It's bound to happen tonight, and we hope it doesn't happen again.
People on the ESPN and whatnot taking shots at me, saying I cheap shot at him, and they didn't see the shots where he kicked me in my head.
It's not a matter of whether you can compose yourself or restrain yourself. That's not what it's all about. It's about protecting yourself and not having the other players on the floor lose respect for you.
We were antagonized until the point, our backs was against the wall. We had to make a stand.
The weekend also saw Dennis Rodman twice bringing down Utah players to earn an ejection. 2 unlikely Warriors, Mark Price and B.J. Armstrong, nearly got into it. The worst crime is the bench-clearing brawl. There are $105,000 in automatic fines for the teams and the players in the Atlanta-Miami brawl. A hockey player leaving the bench is ejected, suspended 10 games. His team fined $10,000. His coach suspended, his coach fined, and then placed on 3 years probation. Is violence in the NBA born of taunting? Taunting is supposed to draw technical fouls. Trash talking and chest thumping are common sights.
They were talking all game long, and that taunting stuff sometimes sets people off.
All within the crucible of playoff pressure.
You got the coaches in your ear, you got the players in your ear, and when you get out there between the lines, it's a lot of pressure on you. It's a lot of things tugging at you, and it doesn't take a whole lot to set anyone off, I don't think.
The irony is that NBA violence in the regular season is down. The league's point system for flagrant fouls apparently worked. Incidents, defined as flagrant fouls or elbowing, were down. There were 3 fewer fights, while suspensions measured in number of games were up. So the mechanism is in place to control on-court violence. After Saturday's outbursts, Patrick Ewing drew a second technical long after a tussle under the basket with Derek Coleman. Was Sunday the day of the quick whistle?
Could it be because of what happened last night? But, you know, that's last night. Today's a different, a different day, two different teams.
Different is one of many adjectives applied to Dennis Rodman. A month and a half ago, he was called in by Commissioner David Stern to discuss his on-court conduct.
I need to hit somebody, actually, to really get ejected. Then we'll see how David Stern will like that. Then he had to suspend me for the whole year then.
Monday, that became a reality as the league dealt with physical playoffs that can turn violent. The NBA may be more successful internationally than any other U.S. league.
The
playoff image it projects is global, beyond the backyard battles in the heat of May.